just wanted to start by quickly reviewing what I hope we can take away from the next couple of hours. So, can I have someone from this table read number 1?
I can define mindfulness.
Okay, number 2?
I can explain the benefits of mindfulness.
Great, number 3?
I can name 3 mindfulness practices that I can use to support my own well-being.
Okay, number 4?
I can give a basic explanation of the neuroscience that supports mindfulness.
5?
I can explain the basic components of mindfulness lessons.
And 6?
I can create a lesson to introduce mindfulness to my students.
Okay, and this is also on your sheet. You didn't see it there initially. So before we dive into all of that, a couple of asks, and this is what I put up on the board for when I work with students too. So try whatever we're doing, and if you think it's weird and it's uncomfortable, all of those things are totally fine. I just ask that we try some of these practices out. Let other people try it. So this is especially important when I'm working with students. A reminder that even if you don't want to try it, okay, let's not interrupt other people's experiences. Be kinder than necessary. So think about, if I was my kindest self and my best self right now, how would I interact with folks? And then technology away. And so for those of you who work with high school and maybe even middle school students, you probably know that this can be a challenging ask. And I ask it of students and I ask it of adults because mindfulness is about being here, right now. So, when adults are here, if there is some sort of reason that you need to have like a phone on hand to check in with children or whatever it is, then you know that that is true for you. If it is about more like a compulsive need to check in with technology, just notice that in ourselves. And, with students a lot, that is what comes up. It's just this need to feel connected all the time. So I want us to start at our tables talking a little bit about what are the things that make teaching hard. And I'm going to give you an example of what it made teaching emotionally draining for me. When I first walked into my classroom, I just had this problem where my students would never have pencils. And I would have boxes of them out and they would take them all and the next day they'd not have them again. I would trade a shoe for a pencil and somehow they'd still lose it, right? So I tried all the strategies and it would drive me bananas. I just couldn't handle the fact that they should have their pencils with them, right, to be good learners, but they didn't. So there was this dissonance between what I expected of them and what they were doing, and that caused me to suffer. So what are the things that you sort of notice that you're suffering over because you want things to be different than what they are? Go ahead and just chat with your table about what comes up when I ask you what drives you bananas about the work that you do.
Participate as much as you want to. So there's never a time when you're teaching that you feel like this.
I feel a lot of frustration. A lot of it.
So that would be
Alright, that's going to be my attention-getting symbol. What are a couple of things that you all shared out there, if you wouldn't mind sharing to the larger group? What are some of those things that emotionally impact you as an educator? Yeah?
Yeah, I share one. Drive my banana. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, drive
That
some
is
bananas.
one thing. I'm the language teacher, so when I'm doing something to explain this word or explain these characters, I say some things, my students said, I just related to other subjects. It's just like a sayings. I completely do not understand. They're just chatting and talking each other. I have no idea. I just directly tell them, 我不知道你们说什么. They all, what did you say? What did you say?
Yeah, so the chatter, the side chatter, they're not listening to you when they're talking. Anyone else is like, yeah, that is hard. Okay, what else? Yeah.
I was talking to, I work at a K2 school, and
I've just noticed that the kids are coming in more and more just like dysregulated and not at a point where they can even start to attend to education. Like they can't focus or like there's just so much that they're bringing in from outside and is going on internally that getting them to a point, I feel like more needs to be done, like mindfulness or different interventions to get them to a point where they can even take in the more academic instruction that's being presented, that they're not even in a place where they can be ready to take that in.
Other people observing that in some of their settings.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Maybe one more.
I think that it kind of relates to that I teach dance, so they come in and they have real chaotic energy. You know, some of them are super energized, and other ones are lethargic.
So the energy is sort of all over the place. Yeah. So here's what's really hard, I think, about being an educator. Has anyone heard the term compassion fatigue? So if we are always emotionally investing and overly investing our hearts into our students, into fellow staff members, into our jobs, and we need our students to meet particular expectations. We need them, with our hearts to meet those expectations. That's really exhausting when they don't, right? It is exhausting to watch students fail. It's really hard to watch it again and again if we're all of our heart, all of our soul invested in it. But how do we stay engaged, and how do we keep those expectations high for our students and not totally exhaust ourselves? And I think that's a real paradox for educators right now. And my hypothesis, and what I'm going to present to you today, is the more that we start to both explore mindfulness for ourselves and the more that we start to offer it for our students and slow down a little bit, the more we're able to support ourselves and support them in the learning process. So we'll talk through that today. What is your understanding of what mindfulness is coming in here today? What do you think? And you can just shout it out. Yeah.
Being present and non-judging, like in the moment.
Great.
Awareness.
So awareness, being present and non-judging. Any other sort of like word association ideas that you have?
Grounded.
Grounded. Yeah.
Thoughtful.
Thoughtful. All right, we'll talk through a few definitions in the field. So non-judgmental, that language of non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. What's happening right now without judging that thing. Can I fully experience it? Seeing the space between stimulus and response. So something happens, can I wait a second before I react? And I think a lot of times we see in our students there's no space between the thing that happens and their reaction to it. I think we run into that as adults too. So if we start to really focus on that space and grow it, then we're making choices instead of being controlled. The ability to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, and I love this definition. So can we slow down enough to really enjoy our cup of coffee again? Or to eat our lunches and taste them? I have countless days where I would just sit in front of the computer and shove food into my mouth, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Can we slow down again and have these experiences and really live our lives a little bit more fully? And then, so it's a practice and a way of living. So I can practice mindfulness, I can practice paying attention to the present moment, and then I carry that forth into my life. So arguably, every moment of every day, I can be mindful. I can be mindful while I'm washing my dishes. I can be mindful while I'm interacting with students. And that practice really supports living it. It's not stopping thoughts, and this is a really common misconception. So people sit down, they try to do a mindfulness exercise, their mind fills with thoughts. That's part of the process. It's not a religion, and it's not a cult. And it's not a disciplinary strategy. So if we go into the classroom and we want our kids to calm down and we're trying to use mindfulness to make them calm down, it doesn't work, right? And knowing our intentions and our expectations and holding them at the forefront is really important. Otherwise, a lot of times, when people haven't done a lot of practice themselves or understand it, they go into a classroom, they think their kids should just be calm when they ring the bell, and then they're mad at them when there are like fart noises or like snoring and like the things that are often just sort of come with the territory when you're working with students. They're still the same students they were when you started practicing mindfulness, right? They still want to test boundaries, and sometimes they're really uncomfortable with this weird thing of looking into themselves. And it's not easy. So simple, not easy. So I'm going to show you a quick video, and we'll talk about it after.